So if I can just ask you to introduce yourselves and give us a brief outline of what you do.
Yes, my name's Louisa, and I work for the project, the Gap Map Project, who works with those who have experiences of being sexually exploited. And we support those clients through a journey of recovery and recognising some of the traumatic experiences that they've been exposed to.
Okay.
Hiya, my name's Laura McIntyre. I'm Service Manager at Changing Lives, so I support the work that Louisa does. And I've been as part of the organisation for 10 years, working with clients, directly with clients, victims of sexual exploitation, and also supporting people who are exchanging sex to survive, which I guess is another element of sexual exploitation, but this exchange of a sexual service in order to get a survival need met, and I think that's one of our kind of core client groups and a really common thing that we see in the project.
Well, if I can just start from the beginning, how is it that you find out who these, it's largely women, isn't it, that we're talking about here, who these women are? How do they come to you, the starting point?
So we get our referrals from a lot of our external partnerships, which they will identify when some of our clients are really vulnerable due to their complex needs, and they will kind of make a referral to our service. We would go out and meet those individuals and kind of get an understanding of what's going on for those clients and kind of direct them in the right pathway in order to recover, or try to do some crisis intervention work and some harm reduction work with those clients. But a lot of our referrals do come from external partner agencies, but also we get self-referrals as well, where clients will be made aware by another client that they're working with an agency like ourselves, and then clients will come forward with a self-referral.
So it's key for you to develop a relationship with that person straight away and to gain their trust.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think that's what can be challenging at times, because a lot of our clients have a lack of trust in professionals due to historical abuse and just a lot of the experiences that they've had. They haven't got that kind of relationship where they can trust. So we're starting from scratch. Sometimes we're validating 20, 15 years of abuse and trauma. So it's a long process. It doesn't just happen overnight where you build up a relationship and you can kind of fix someone as such. It's a long journey, but what we're really good at is building up those strong, positive working relationships for clients to engage with and have a sense of safety and a sense of trust that they can disclose, and that they will be heard and believed, and the support package is there for them.
And you're talking here, Laura, about very damaged people, aren't you?
Yeah. So I guess the criteria for the project is having some kind of experience of sexual exploitation as an adult. But what we're seeing with the adults that we're working with is that it's not the first time that this has happened. There's a whole kind of lifetime of abuse that's occurred for somebody, often sexual abuse as a child, and we do a lot of work around adverse childhood experiences, and that includes dysfunctional home environments, so whether they've been exposed to direct trauma themselves, or even just witnessing something in the family home like domestic abuse, or that parent or main caregiver going to prison or having a mental health issue or having issues around substance misuse. So often the client that we're working with is coming from a background of really complex stuff going on. It hasn't just happened now. And I think that's one of the reasons why our client group become a real easy target. You know, perpetrators can spot that vulnerability from a mile off. And that's a real sad fact, and it's not a new thing for people. As an adult, it's over a lifetime.
So when you identify who the people are that need help, what practically can you do apart from forming that relationship and giving them advice? What can you do?
I think just touching on some of the stuff that Louisa said firstly about the relationship stuff, I think the interventions for us that sit in that stage, we have a 3-staged approach, and the first stage is what we would describe as being, and it's about letting people be who they need to be. So whether they've got lots of kind of complicated things going on in their life, like that's okay, you can be that person with those experiences in our services without feeling judged or discriminated against, and being able to talk about what's going on for you, and not necessarily going too deep into those life events, but being able to just be, and not having any kind of stigma associated with what's going on. And I think some of the interventions that surround that for us are offering like really nice activities, so really soft touch kind of stuff. And I think historically over the years, those types of interventions have been deemed as the really nice, soft, fluffy stuff, and the things that don't necessarily make a difference. I think one of our messages today would be that those interventions are absolutely paramount for us to be able to develop a platform to be able to offer some more meaningful activities of support.
So when you say the soft touch, fluffy stuff, what kind of things do you mean?
Yeah, so taking women on retreat days, taking women outside of their local environment, so where they're not in the hustle and bustle of like people targeting them or having to search for drugs and alcohol. So taking them to a place of safety, like Louisa said, in a rural environment where they can have a nice meal, take part in holistic therapies, be around other people with maybe similar life experiences, and just having like a day out of like that they're going to be safe and they're going to be protected. And again, they can just be. So I think some of these interventions might be deemed as maybe not so much now, but I think historically over the years of just doing really nice things with women. But I think personally for me, I've definitely learned the real value in those types of interventions.
And I think sometimes, some of us take those nice things as for granted. Well, a lot of our clients haven't really had experiences of going to retreat days or going horse riding, or simply as having their nails painted or having their eyebrows threaded. But those types of activities are so important because, again, it builds that platform. It does.
And a bit of self-esteem.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Which is important.
Now, you two have both been involved in the Operation Sanctuary issue that we are all aware of now. I think our audience will know of this. A child sexual exploitation ring. We're talking children. That must have been very hard for you to deal with as workers.
Yeah,
I think when Operation Sanctuary hit the media, we thought before it actually hit the news and hit the media that actually we'll be able to deal with this because we've worked with this client group for so many years, and I had said just earlier there that the project's been established for over 10 years now. And although we work with adults, we're talking about adults who've experienced this lifetime of abuse and trauma. So before it hit the media, we had team discussions and we thought that we're really well prepared for it. But actually, we just got this real overwhelming feeling of just, we were just really sad, that the emotional kind of sadness that took over. And I don't think we ever expected that to happen because we thought, well, we know it. We know what's going to hit the news. We know the kind of content of the cases. We know the sentencing that's going to be coming up. We knew it inside out. But actually, when it went so public, it was like, God, this is really overwhelming.
Yeah. Became really real, because again, we've been doing this for such a long time, supporting those clients through that journey. And I think anything that hits the media the way it did have a massive emotional impact on us as a team, as a project.
But working through that on a sort of week-to-week basis, how did you, Louisa, Laura, get back home, switch off, knowing that this kind of stuff is going on the streets?
I think what's important is that this is not just a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job for us. It can't be that. It doesn't work like that. This is something that we're very passionate about. And again, it's the women that make us have this passion, because we come to work for the women. We go home and we go back to our families, but we're very mindful that the work that we do is paramount to our clients. And
that makes a difference.
It does. It absolutely does make a difference. Don't get me wrong, it can be challenging. Like that's normal.
And I think that's the really bad stuff, isn't it? That whole trial, that whole investigation is like the worst it can possibly be. I think there's two things for me, is that some of the stuff that Louisa said is that the women make our jobs really good as well. Like, we work with some of the most inspirational, beautiful women, and some of my life experiences, some of my most positive memories are about being at work. I've created so many good, professional, positive relationships with women, and I've been inspired so many ways.
Is that because you see people turning around and having breakthroughs?
Yeah.
Not necessarily just about the breakthrough though, just about that individual. Just because a client presents with a lot of multiple and complex needs and of experiences of horrific trauma, they're still that person. They're no different to you and I, you know, and sometimes people get overwhelmed by that, don't they? Someone who presents quite chaotic, but we see through that, I suppose, don't we, Laura? And we see the person as an individual, and like they have feelings, they're very inspiring, very intelligent, have a lot of qualities that kind of get undermined sometimes by society, I suppose, isn't it?
And I think as a project, you know, when we're talking specifically about Sanctuary, although we were feeling really overwhelmed at the time with regards to the media, also it wasn't necessarily new for us as a project, because even though the kind of the trafficking group, the perpetrators were a new group of people, the needs, the presentation of the client group for us, that's not new. The kind of needs that the women presented with are the same needs that women presented with 10 years ago. So I think what made us cope and manage with it is that it's not new, and actually what we're starting to see 4 years later after the original trials is that some women are still living really complicated lives or dealing with the impact of the trauma, and we are prepared for that because we know that it just doesn't stop, and there's a real cycle, and actually there might be a new person in their life that becomes abusive as well. And I think we're just very patient with it, and we don't get overwhelmed by it, and we don't judge it. So if somebody does fall into a new event or life situation that could be just as equally abusive, we try not to become frightened by it, but just work with it, because we know that it's a really long road.
I wonder sometimes if you have a bit of a restless night thinking, what would happen if Changing Lives, or a project like Changing Lives, wasn't around? You know,
that would worry.
I would really worry, and I just think that the years of the service gives way so much knowledge and experience, and that thing there that I talked about just not being overwhelmed by it, and not to panic, and not to react in a way that could cause more damage. We've got that behind where we've got that experience, and we've got that knowledge behind where, and I worry that there's some great services out there and we all work really well together in a multi-agency way. I think there's something really unique that we offer as an organisation, and especially as a project with regards to this subject. And I think our theory of change, the being, becoming, belonging, I don't know that happens anywhere else, and the length of the service, that somebody can be connected with us. I'm not sure of that either. And the fact that all of our staff are trained in delivering DBT skills to clients, which is around dialectical behavioural therapy, and it's a therapeutic tool where we offer women to gain emotional tools to manage their emotions and overcome some of those self-destructive habits. And I don't know any other kind of charitable service that offers assertive outreach, doing all the kind of really nice things with women, and then gets them onto this therapeutic piece of work, and then integrates people back into that community safe and well. And I think we have a really good understanding of our model, and we believe that it works, and I don't know that happens anywhere else other than here.
Well, hats off to you. You're doing a real job. It's making a big difference, I'm sure. And I'm getting the impression there's nothing you'd rather do.
Absolutely not.
Nah, I couldn't imagine myself doing. Don't get me wrong, there's some days where I think, I could just go and work in Phoenix or something. And I think I'd get bored, and sometimes I need my clients and the chaos and the 100 mile an hour, because that's exactly what it is. We are non-stop, it's just a cycle, and we're on a big journey. We're on a big journey ourselves, we're on a journey with our clients. And I know we talk about Operation Sanctuary, and Operation Sanctuary's been in the media, but it's been going on for such a long time, and just because it's been in the media, with the investigation has ended, the results are out, that now this is where the work starts. Now it's over. This is where the work starts. This is where road to recovery now. And sometimes that kind of gets diluted a little bit, but this is where the hard work takes place now.
What did you think? We're sort of coming to an end now. I just wanted to think of an example of someone who's really, I don't know if recovery is the right word, somebody who's really changed their lives.
I've got an example of a young girl who was referred to our service due to being identified as a victim of Operation Sanctuary. When I went out to meet this young lady, it was clear that she was mentally unwell. She experienced horrific trauma throughout this investigation and been exposed to some horrific exploitation. I would say that was about 3 years ago. supported her throughout the whole investigation, offered her the tools that we use in order to help clients identify their emotions, how to tolerate some of their distress in more appropriate, healthier ways. She's just gone through the court process in January. Before Christmas she gave birth to a little boy, and 3 years on of working with the GAP project, she has her own home, she has her baby at home, and she's going to be a peer lead in our project, which is going to be working alongside the Mothers Union, and it's called a quilting project. So that might be, why would anybody want to get involved in quilting? But these young women made this quilt, and she's going to be heavily involved in kind of asking for pots of money, I suppose, and developing this service for women to come together to develop more really nice therapeutic things.
So it's brought out a skill in her.
It has, but again, I'd like to stress that just because things are going really well at the minute, it's still a journey, and it's still a journey to recovery, and I think we need to remember that.
Yeah. Brilliant, girls. Laura, Louisa, thank you very much.
Thank
indeed.
you.
Thank you. Keep going.
Yeah.